there, today we're taking a look at some outside scale options. Scales that you can use when you want to play outside when you're improvising. So in my videos I like to look at jazz concepts for jazz improvisation, right? And most of the time I'm looking at something from a book, or it's a jazz transcription, or it could be another YouTube video that I'm analyzing or something. In this video we're going to take a look at an article from a Guitar Player magazine. Back in the 90s, Mick Goodrick had a column called Thinking Guitarist. So this is from the issue of June 1992. So as always, when I'm looking at something like this, I'm not going to give you all the stuff that is here, because the idea is not for me to give you someone else's ideas, but rather how I use this in my own playing and my take on it. So I think I can give you one of these licks though. There are a few scales that he suggests that you can use over dominant chords. So I'll give you one example, and then I'm gonna change them a little bit after my own taste. But I want to get right into it, so let's go. So what Mick Goodrick suggests here is to use certain scales over a dominant chord, because a dominant chord is where you usually create tension, right? So he says that over a G7, for example, you can use a B melodic minor. So let's just take a listen. Let's say we have a good old 2-5-1 in C major. Okay, now I'm gonna play this lick over the G chord. I prefer to play as eighth notes. I was ignoring the 2 chord and treating the whole 2 bars as a G7, right? But this doesn't give you really a good feel for what's going on here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make a little backing track using my iReal book. So let's do On Green Dolphin Street in C. And some people are saying, well, it's supposed to be in E flat. Yeah, but we're gonna play it in C. And then what I like to do, I turn down the piano in the mix, or I get rid of it, and then I try to catch a chorus, or half a chorus in this case, because of I want to save time. And so I'm just going to play the A section with no piano, and I try to catch that with my loop pedal. Let's see how that goes. Okay, there it is. Now I'm gonna play some chords. And for the dominant chords, I'm gonna play melodic minor chords. So I'm gonna play a B melodic minor, B minor major 7. D minor major 7. Okay, so that gives you a better idea. So here it sounds like more of a reharm technique. I'm treating that D minor to G7 as something completely different, which is a kind of a modern way of reharmonization. So also notice that I'm not using the swing feel of iRealbook. I just don't like that swing feel. It's really stiff. So I'm using the samba, which sounds a little bit better in my opinion. Let's just take a look at how this scale works. There's 5 different scales that he suggests here. I'm going to give you a few of those, and they have one thing in common, and it is that there's no root. So it's like he's kind of dropped the root to a major 7, and the major 7 is obviously a very outside note on a dominant chord. So if I play B melodic minor over G, I get the 3rd, sharp 11, 5th, 13, major 7, flat 9, sharp 9. So it's almost like some kind of altered scale. It's almost like a symmetrical diminished scale. Notice the similarity. But we're playing a major 7. It takes a little bit of getting used to the idea of not playing the root in a scale, but I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. So this means that we can combine those two sounds to make it sound a little bit less outside. So if I start off with a melodic minor, and then I go into a symmetrical diminished half whole scale, resolve it, I get kind of 2 scales. Let's listen to what that sounds like. Okay, so that was B melodic minor. So every time I see somebody talking about how to play outside, I always get a little bit skeptical. To me, my philosophy has always been that you should practice and learn how to play inside really well, and then that automatically kind of will allow you to play outside if you can play inside really well, right? Like all you have to do is not play inside. But I think this is also kind of fun, and it's good to kind of try to expand your ear to hear more weird sounds. Okay, the next scale we're gonna take a look at is E flat harmonic minor over the G, or over both those 2 chords, D minor. So I'm treating the whole 2-5 as one thing. So I'm gonna make another, I have to change the chord. So now I'm gonna play an E flat minor major 7 over the G. So this is to give you a better idea of what it sounds like. Obviously it's gonna clash more if I played a regular G7, but I think it's better because a lot of what this is getting used to the sound, to get it into your system. So that's why I'm doing this. So let me record some new chords. Okay, so this scale gives you a flat 13, a flat 7, again the major 7, flat 9, flat 3, or a third, and a fifth. So it sounds like kind of like a altered scale as well. But instead of going to G, you go to F sharp, which creates that completely outside sound. If you want to be really advanced, you can combine two scales. So you could combine G Spanish Phrygian with this new scale. I saw the clinic with a sax player, what's his name, Rudresh, and he talked about that, playing two scales in two different octaves. Okay, so that was a little lick there that you can use. So it's a little bit weird to talk about playing outside licks. They're more of examples. So I suggest that you try to come up with your own little licks and ideas, explore, and don't think of them as licks, more ideas that how you can use these scales. Another thing you can do is take those altered licks that you have and that you like and just change them to this new scale, because it's like almost only one note changed, like the major 7 there. Okay, let's look at one more finally. Let's do one more. C diminished. We often think of the whole half scale over a dominant chord. You could play G half whole, right? To create a G symmetrical diminished dominant scale. Here we're gonna play a C symmetrical diminished scale. And again, we don't get a root, we get a major 7. So we're getting an 11, a fifth, a flat 13, flat 7, and major 7. And then a flat 9, and a regular 9, or a major 9, and the third. So I'm gonna record this again, this time using a C diminished over that G7. So when I did this, something happened. I noticed that it doesn't sound like I'm playing a dominant anymore. It sounds like I'm treating the whole thing as some kind of C modal situation. And if I'm thinking of that as diminished, that means that the E flat is also the same scale. So I can kind of treat the A section, or the first chords, the C major and E flat, as diminished as well, if I want to stretch things a little bit more. And that's not super unusual to treat a major 7 chord as diminished. So I'm going to kind of flirt with C diminished throughout the whole thing here. We'll see what that sounds like. Okay, you get the idea. It sounds kind of like the G7 is just all part of some kind of C diminished modal situation. And this is kind of an argument against this kind of idea, because when you're doing this, to me it sounds like it doesn't sound like you're playing a scale that relates to the chord. it sounds like you're playing something else. But again, it's a good idea to practice this way for many reasons. It kind of puts you in that mindset of playing outside. Something you kind of have to, it's an attitude almost, like you go for it when you're playing. It can be a little bit scary first, right? And you play with really good jazz musicians and they're playing all this crazy stuff. And you just kind of have to get into that mindset of playing outside. Sometimes it's not really that they're playing some kind of advanced concept, even though they could be that, but it's more a question of just trying, and it doesn't really matter what the chord is. Sometimes you can play anything if it sounds good. The idea is that what you're playing should be something in and of itself. So it's when you play outside, as it were, it's not just random. It is, you're playing something strong, like a triad, for example, is a strong sound. So if you're playing a triad that is not related to the chord, that's gonna sound, it's gonna take over, kind of, if you know what I mean. So to me, this is more of a reharm technique than rather thinking of this. If I'm playing this, I'm thinking more of how the C symmetrical diminished scale relates to, or the whole half scale, how it relates to C rather than to the G chord, if that makes sense. So I'll give you a little lick. Let's do this one, the Shikuria one. So there again, I'm treating everything as kind of a diminished modal thing, and it's easy to overdo it. And also, when you're practicing this, I recommend that you do the whole tune, because it's not a good idea to only do a section of a tune. I don't think it's better to play the tune as it is. I'm just doing it now so to save time for the video. So that was my take on Mick Goodrick's playing outside scale options concept. These columns, PDFs, they're all over the internet, so it's pretty easy to find. Or if you can find an old guitar player, some people collect guitar player magazines, maybe you have it. It's also not unusual that they have them in libraries. They keep the old editions of Guitar Player magazine. So please let me know if you think this was a good idea, or if you have your own scales maybe that you like to use outside scales. Some people do that. I know, for example, Scott Henderson has a couple of scales that he uses to go outside. I'll put as always, when there's a PDF, I'll put it on my Patreon page. And thank you for your time and attention, and I shall see you next time.